So I'm about to start Anna Karenina. I have the Oxford World Classics edition because I wanted one that is like floppy, and I've heard these are pretty floppy. Yeah, it's staying open pretty well. Um, and I wouldn't have felt bad. Like, it's not such a pretty copy that I would feel bad annotating in it. It's a big book. It is a big book. It is going to take me a long time to read this. So this is going to probably be part one of who knows how many reading vlogs. I'm really expecting to fall in love with this book. I do know the ending. I do know how it ends, which it was a choice. Someone asked if I wanted to know, and I said yes. So I do have the same sticky notes tabbies that I just used for Brideshead Revisited, and I'm going to use the same system that I used for that. So blue is for sad, green is for descriptions I really like, yellow is for quotes, orange is for things that these strike me but don't necessarily strike me as like happy or anything, and this pinkish red is going to be for things that make me feel warm and fuzzy or just emotional. Like, okay, this book is so big that it has, I think, maybe not this edition, but a lot of editions I've seen have cast of character lists. Yeah, I think this one does too. I've never read anything by Tolkien. Well, that's not true. I read part of War and Peace, but then never finished it. It's a big book, and I didn't have the time. I don't want to read, the introduction or anything, just in case. There are spoilers past what I already know. It's not something I'm interested in risking. So, yeah, this is the new translation that Oxford World Classics have put out. I just chose this one because I liked the cover a little better. I'm very excited for this book. It might be triggering. We'll see. There's so much that could be triggering with this book, I think. Besides the tabs, I'm going to be using these highlighters. I wanted to feel like I could annotate in this book. I don't know if I'm going to leave notes in the book itself, like in pen, just because I don't know what kind of notes I'd be interested in leaving. But I am going to highlight, and I'm not going to differentiate the colors, except because I think this book is split up into like several parts. I don't 100%. 8 parts. Okay, so I'll probably do like part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5, part 6, part 7, part 8 kind of situation. Just because I like to vary the colors up. But I thought about whether I should make the colors mean anything, but I think it'll be easier for me to just have one highlighter that I bring around with me. These are my favorite shades of the Modeliners. But yeah, it's time to begin Anna Karenina. Wish me luck.
Hello, welcome to the Teapot Reads. I'm the Teapot. This is what I am currently reading. I'm so happy to see you. It's happening. I'm reading Anna Karenina. It's happening. This is going to be a somewhat typical vlog and also somewhat not. I'm going to try to include regular vloggy things, but the focus is going to be on Anna Karenina. And as far as I can get, I'm on page like 26, so I'm not super far. I have been annotating. I did say I wanted to try to switch up markers for annotation per section, but the green highlighter was on the verge of dying, and so I just switched to the blue. So I think I'm just gonna keep going until they die, and maybe that'll be an even more interesting thing to kind of track, to be like, oh, how long did a highlighter last? I've been kind of all over the place with highlighting and annotation. So like the stickies, like I said, I'm sticking to that as my system, and it's very much I'm tabbing things that I want to be able to easily turn back to and see again. It's kind of my, if I wanted to read this book again really quickly without having read it again, I would just turn back to the tabs. The highlighting is a bit different. It's not super guided. It's anything that catches my fancy, and whether it's a full highlight or just like an underline or even like a squiggly underline depends on how important I think it is. So let me actually turn the camera and show you. So like here, I just finished these pages, which there's something really satisfying about seeing annotated and just like highlighted pages. I highlight a lot of things that make me laugh, a lot of things that make me think, oh, interesting, and a lot of things that I think are good descriptions of characters. So we've just met Levin, and he's talking about, or the narrator is talking about, why he came back to Moscow, which is to propose marriage to somebody. So like, this I highlighted because I thought it was romantic. After spending 2 months in Moscow, as if in a daze, seeing Kitty almost every day in society, which he had started to frequent in order to meet her. I thought that was like really cute. And then this I thought was interesting. That's why I highlighted this one, which it says, his previous relationship with Kitty, that of an adult and child, emanating from his friendship with her brother, seemed to him yet one more obstacle to love. Like, he's aware of it. I don't know exactly their age difference, but he did kind of meet her through like her family and through his friendship with her brother. So I was like, okay, that is interesting. Like, I don't know how I approve of that. We'll see as it continues. But this is just kind of like, sometimes I do a lot of highlighting. Sometimes I don't. As for characters so far, I mean, I'm not super far. I see, this is where the highlighter is starting to die. I don't know if you can tell, but I can tell. Especially with like, I don't know, this is somewhat fainter than normal. I'm surprised it took, or is taking this long to meet Anna. We haven't met her. She's on her way. Her brother is the one who we get introduced to the book through, which I thought was really interesting. Here's one of the few like other types of annotations I've done. I just thought like these connected in a really interesting way, and it was also like a kind of funny symbolism there. The cool thing about highlighting is that I'm able to point the sticky directly at what I want to reference, whereas in Brideshead Revisited, which I just finished, and which I'm sure I will talk about at some point in this vlog because it just was phenomenal, I wasn't highlighting, I was just using the stickies, so it's a little more vague if I were to return to it. Whereas here I'm like, okay, well, this is sad, and I think this directly is sad, and this says, he had even thought that as a worn-out, aging, no longer pretty woman, wholly unremarkable, ordinary, simply the good mother of her family, she ought by rights to be indulgent, but it had turned out quite the opposite. So yeah, that's where I am annotating wise. I'm about to start chapter 7 in part 1. But turning the camera back to myself, I'm really surprised that we haven't met Anna yet. I've never seen any adaptation of this. Like I said in my little introduction, I know how her story ends. I don't know the like situation surrounding it though. I don't really know much about this story other than that it's like one of the greatest novels ever written. Tolstoy is like beloved, and I can definitely see, I mean, it's hard to tell, you know, what's the original writer and what's the translator, but a good translator is invisible, and I'm going to choose to believe that the Oxford World Classics, who are one of the preeminent, especially scholarly publishers have chosen a really fantastic translator, and that translator is Rosamund Bartlett. So I'm going to assume she is remaining invisible for the most part, and therefore the writing is like Tolstoy's just genius, and he is very good at describing character through motion. Like, you get to know a character and their personality through like how they're moving in a scene, and he also does it in such simple ways. Like, as a writer, I sometimes struggle to be like, how am I going to make the reader see what I want them to see? And he just has such a deft hand at it. There were a couple scenes that I highlighted. Here at the beginning of chapter 3, it says, once dressed, Stepan Arkadyevich sprayed himself with cologne, straightened the sleeves of his shirt, distributed cigarettes, wallet, matches, and watch with two chains and seals among his pockets with a practiced gesture, and, after shaking out his handkerchief and feeling clean, fragrant, healthy, and physically spry in spite of his misfortune, walked with a spring in every step into the dining room. Like, that is just a wonderful, beautiful statement that you can like picture exactly what it means. There was another one with Matvey that was just really good. I can't find it now, unfortunately. Tank, no. There was also this scene I wanted to talk about where he's like talking to someone from the village. So I'm gonna read you the scene, and then I'm gonna tell you what it reminded me of, because it like, I was like, is this is this like a scene for scene? So the carriage is ready, said Matvey, and there is a woman with a petition, he added. How long has she been here? Or has she been here long? Asked Stepan Arkadyevich. About half an hour. How many times have you been told to let me know straight away? Well, ask her to come in without delay, said Oblonsky, frowning with annoyance. The petitioner, the widow of a staff captain Kalinin, was asking for something which was impossible and absurd. But Stepan Arkadyevich sat her down in accordance with his usual custom, heard her out dutifully without interrupting, gave her detailed advice about whom she should approach and how to go about it, and even dashed off a brisk little note in his large, expansive, beautiful, and clear handwriting for her to take to the person who could provide assistance. And the scene that reminded me of was the scene in the first Incredibles movie where Mr. Incredible is like, you didn't hear it from me, but this is who you go to get your insurance claim. It just reminded me of that so much. And a back part of my brain is like, are there more similarities I can find in this book? Because that would be really interesting to engage with it in that way, to be like, the similarities between Anna Karenina and the Incredibles movie. But this is all I have to say. Like I said, only about 26 pages in. I want to get to at least page 30 today. My goal right now for the rest of the month is to read 25 pages a day. And then in September, since it's the start of fall and the start of really spending more time inside, I want to try to read 50 pages a day and hopefully finish it before the end of next month is my goal. I don't think it's going to take me an incredibly awful long amount of time. I'm just worried I might get distracted by new releases in the meantime. So we're gonna see how it goes. I don't really want to put down Anna Karenina while I'm in the middle of it, but if there is like something I'm really excited for, I don't think there is, but if like something did like fall into my lap, I'll have to judge then if I put Anna down or keep going. But yes, this is it. This is officially the beginning of my Anna Karenina vlog, or vlogs. It'll probably be vlogs. It'll probably be at least 2. Let's all be excited together. Yeah, let's all be very excited together. All right. Hopefully you're not too crooked. Okay. Hi. Obviously this is the Anna Karenina reading vlog, so that's what it's mostly going to focus on. But I thought I would like catch you up to speed on what else I've been reading, because I have been reading other things. I finished Brideshead Revisited by Evelyn Waugh like 3 days ago. I love this. I tabbed this up I'm so pleased. I just like, I adored this book. One of my favorite books I've read this year. I kind of want to do a full review on it. I just don't know what that would look like because it wouldn't look like a regular review, but I just have so many thoughts and things I need to say about it. I am still working on getting up my Anyway the Wind Blows review, but I have again a lot of stuff to say about that book, so I probably won't be working on a review of this until that is up, but I loved this. I loved this so much. It was so hard to finish because I didn't want to leave this writing and this tragic world that has been built up. I adored it. It's so good. I immediately went and purchased another Evelyn Waugh book. I ordered a copy on the Penguin Modern Classics, so it would be matching. I ordered Vile Bodies. So as soon as that arrives, it's going on like my immediate TBR because I just like have to read that. But yeah, 5 out of 5. I loved this. I am also, that's not correct. So I started reading A Spindle Splintered by Alex E. Harrow. This is an ARC. It comes out in October, and it's got some art in it. Hold on, let me show you. It's really cool art. I was not going to read this right away, but a friend of mine is interested in reading it, so I was like, okay, let me read the art real quick and I'll send it on your way. I've never read an Alex E. Harrow book before. So far I'm one chapter in. I just read it before I went to bed the other day. I'm enjoying it. There's a really quick pace to it that I'm appreciating, and it's dark without being bleak. Like, the main character has a disease where no one's lived past 22, I think, or 23. And this is like her last year, or what she assumes to be her last year. So it's good. It's good. It's got good fairy tale vibes. I'm also listening to the audiobook of Wives and Daughters by Elizabeth Gaskell. I will talk about this a little bit in this vlog. This is probably the book that's going to get the most talk time outside of Anna. I am now 12 chapters in, so small spoiler, I guess. Not really, because the back of the book tells you it's going to happen, but Molly's father has proposed to Mrs. Kirkpatrick, or Hyacinth, or Claire, however you want to call her, and Molly is taking it poorly, and already we're getting some really interesting dynamics between Mrs. Kirkpatrick and Molly, and I realized I didn't really describe what this is about. It is about Molly Gibson. She's 17. She is the only daughter of a widowed country doctor, and he decides to remarry this woman for really just reasons that he thinks it would benefit Molly to have like a mother in the house. Like, he's afraid of her leaving and getting married, and the stepmother and Molly don't get along very well, and the stepmother is kind of trying to ruin Molly. At least that's what the back makes it sound like. So it sounds like a very much like a Cinderella type story. This was Elizabeth Gaskell's final novel. She passed away while writing it, so unfortunately it's unfinished, but I'm really enjoying it. I'm listening to the audiobook. I will put the audiobook narrator's name down below. They do a fantastic job. They're really bringing it to life, and it's been a real pleasure to listen to on the way to work. Yeah, really, really enjoying this one. So I'll keep you updated on that, as I also keep you updated on Anna. I'm still listening to the audiobook of House of Salt and Sorrows. It's been a slow going, but I'm really enjoying it. And I think that's it for what I'm reading. I think that's it. That's all of it. Besides, of course, Anna Karenina herself. Every once in a while I flip back to the character list at the beginning, found a major spoiler. Or not major, but like a spoiler in there. And I was like, oh, okay. But some of the names, like, I know I haven't met all the characters, but some of the names are just gonna throw me. Like, already I'm having a hard time pronouncing people. I think I have a good idea of who everyone is and how they're related, and I think it's actually really neat how you start with the Oblonskys, which are a meeting of these two households, because Oblonsky, his sister is Anna, and Oblonsky's wife Dolly, her family, the Sherbatskys, they are very important in Levin's story, and also, like, there's connections to Vronsky there, so I just think it's really interesting how we start with this sort of meeting through the Oblonskys. And I'm curious to see if the Oblonskys maintain as much prominence in the book. We still haven't met Anna, although I looked at the next chapter, chapter 17. It looks like Oblonsky is picking her up. So maybe we'll meet her in the next chapter. We'll see. I am appreciating how short a lot of these chapters are. Like, some of them are like a page and some of them are like 4 pages. Like, they're not long chapters. I guess chapter 14 is kind of long. Let me see. There's one chapter that was like 1 page exactly. Well, okay, now I'm not finding it. But there was. There's a lot of short chapters. I really like that. It makes it easy to digest, especially considering how big of a book it is. Like, I don't feel like I have to leave off in the middle of like a big chapter where things are happening. I can just read one chapter and move on if needed. Yes, really enjoying it. Today I have to go to work. I'm actually leaving in about 15 minutes, so I have to just like finish up what I'm doing here and then head out. When I get home, I am going to hopefully try to make like, it's not a Netflix party because we just watch the same thing and then text each other, but that with a friend. We've been rewatching Lucifer, which is a total comfort show, so hopefully I'll be able to make that work tonight. We'll see, fingers crossed. And I guess that's really it that I'm planning for tonight. My goal, I think I said yesterday, is to read 25 pages every day. It takes me about half an hour to read 10 pages in this book, which is, oh sorry, not an hour, about half an hour to read 10 pages in this book. So I have to read about another half hour. Hopefully I can manage it at work on my breaks. That would be ideal. If I can't, I would like to try to do it tonight because I do want to maintain that 25 pages a day, which is such a reasonable request, and also I'm enjoying it, like, so I want to return to it, but we're going to see. I don't know if I'll be able to actually manage that. Tomorrow I'm off. I'm not sure what we're doing, but I think we're doing something as a family. But the plans have changed like 6 times, so we'll see. We'll see what it ends up being. I have no idea. No idea. I might end up buying some stuff at work today. We'll see about that as well. There's something like a little like mini project I want to work on, and we have this thing at work that I think would be a really good starting point for the mini project. So if I pick that up, you'll see it either tomorrow or tonight or Tuesday. I'm excited to work on it though. It's gonna be fun. But that's just what I've been reading. That's like a reading I, like I said, loved Brideshead Revisited. It was so good. So good on like every level. Absolutely adored it. It's one of the books that I'm going to consider gifting at the end of the year, because not this copy, but I like to gift people my favorite books of the year, and this one might make it on the list if I can find someone who I think would appreciate it. But I will definitely talk more about it in the future. I have to give it a video at some point, but okay. I'll see you soon. I was bad and I bought some books today. I will show them off, maybe. But you know, it was a treat. But I bought this. This is organic dog biscuit cookbook and like cookie cutters. Is that what they're called? Yeah, that's what they're called. I am so excited. This is gonna be my little project for my dog, obviously. I am not a very good baker. In fact, I'm a horrible baker. I'm an okay cook, if you're curious. I'm an okay cook. But every time I've tried to bake something in the last like 5 years, I have royally messed it up, whether it's putting anise instead of vanilla extract or salt instead of sugar. I'm not even kidding. I've made that mistake. I think I've made it like twice now. So don't ask me to bake anything. Okay? From the box is okay, but like from scratch I can't do. So I'm planning to try to practice by making dog treats, and also I think Tank would just really appreciate that. So that's what I'm gonna be doing. It's gonna be my mini project for the next couple weeks, and I'll let you know how that goes. But I'm really excited to try. I think it'll be fun. I think he'll appreciate it. I mean, he'll eat anything, but I think he'll appreciate the love I put into making him some snacks. But now I'm going to go home I'm gonna go home and have some leftovers. I don't know if I want leftover pasta or pizza. I have both to choose from. And I'm gonna watch Lucifer with my friend, which is a total comfort show. I'm really excited for it. I don't know how many episodes I'll be up for. Maybe just one. Normally we try for 2, but I might only be good for 1 tonight. We'll see. I've continued with Anna Karenina. Loving it. Finally met Anna. And again, maybe I'll talk about it later tonight. I kind of just want to go home and I don't want to pull my book out. But I did finally meet Anna. I like her. She seems really cool. I feel like I would be just in awe of her if I was in the same room as her. Like IRL. This also really makes me want to watch the movie. So tomorrow I'm planning to watch The Green Knight, because you can stream it now, or you can rent it and stream it now. But I might also try to make a point to watch Anna Karenina soon, but we'll see. Okay, I'll talk to you guys in probably just a few seconds. See you in a few seconds. Yesterday, me and my family went to Galena, Illinois, which is one of my favorite places in the entire country and definitely my favorite place in the entire state. And that's where you would see all this footage from. Mostly it was like the trip up there just because it's a really interesting and lovely drive, and it is a really interesting and lovely city, and there just really wasn't a good opportunity to take more video of like the city itself. But it is really, really cool. Like there are huge gates when you drive into the downtown that they close if the river floods too much. And a lot of the houses, especially in the downtown, are kind of on stilts because it's like up on this huge hill and they like reach out. Really cute, really lovely town. I absolutely love going there, even though it's like a trek. But we spent the whole day there. It was so fun. It was such a great time. And there is probably my favorite store. There is this root beer store, and you can get like root beer on tap. And I got all these different kinds of root beer. I cannot wait to start trying them. They're going to be a treat for myself. I'm thinking like once a week. We'll see. I'm just like stoked if I drink them during this vlog period. I'll let you know how they are. I also picked up this keychain that because memes for me never die, but it says Joe Exotic's Wild Animal Park 1. Carol did it. Winwood, Oklahoma septic tank. I don't know if it's turning out in the video, but I just absolutely love this. I'm going to be putting it on my work keys because memes don't die for me. I keep them alive forever. So that's what I've been doing. Personal life. I've also obviously been reading Anna. I am officially 100 pages in. I think I said that I had met Anna finally, and it took like 80 pages to get there. It takes a while to meet Anna. But I wanted to talk about our first impressions of her, my first impressions of her, and then my impression of her now. Even though it hasn't been too many pages, I guess it takes like 60 pages to meet her. Also, I went through another highlighter. I was using blue highlighter after the green one. The blue's like nearly dead, so I've had to switch to gray. Like, I'm not just using them for Anna, I've been using them for other things like annotating or just like bullet journal stuff, but officially on my third highlighter with this book and just 100 pages in, so wasn't expecting to go through them that quickly. But our first impression of Anna, so it's from Vronsky's perspective. With the customary tact of a society man, Vronsky ascertained with one glance at this lady's appearance that she belonged to the highest echelons of society. He apologized and was about to go into the carriage, but felt the need to glance at her again, not because she was very beautiful, and not because of the elegance and unassuming grace evident in her whole figure, because there was something particularly gentle and tender in the expression of her pretty face when she walked past him. When he looked round, she also turned her head. Her shining gray eyes, made dark by her thick lashes, focused intently on his face for a moment in a friendly fashion, as if she recognized him, then immediately transferred to the approaching crowd, as if looking for someone. In that brief glance, Vronsky had time to notice the suppressed animation which sparkled in her face and flitted between her shining eyes and the barely perceptible smile curving her rosy lips. It was as if an abundance of something so overflowed her being that it expressed itself independently of her will, now in the radiance of her glance, now in her smile. She had deliberately extinguished the light in her eyes, but it shone against her will in her barely perceptible smile. What an introduction! Like, what an introduction to a character. I don't think I've ever read a more just like in awe introduction of a character from another character. Like, Vronsky is like ready to get on his knees, I feel like, immediately, which I was not expecting. And I know the novel is named after her, and I know she is very central to it, obviously. But I wasn't expecting such a just overwhelmingly positive first impression, at least from the character's point of view, and it kind of like turned me off. Like, she sounds beautiful and she sounds lovely and she sounds like a nice person, but beyond that, I hadn't been feeling like there was much to her. I do love the description of her at the ball, which is from Kitty's point of view. I thought that was just a lovely, lovely description. I'm not a visual reader. Like, when I read, I have a really hard time picturing things. I can picture things, but it doesn't come naturally. And I'm not saying it does come naturally for like this book, because I'm just not very visual. But it takes a lot less for me to picture things in these books, and especially like the cold and the snow and the smells of the snow and like wintry stuff. I feel that like throughout the entire book, and I kind of feel the aesthetic and the ambiance of scenes without having to work really hard to get that. I did want to say that. I'm kind of all over the place. It's kind of late tonight. It was a long day of work, a lot of heavy lifting. But they spend a while talking about Anna's outfit. And so it's Anna in a low-cut black velvet dress, revealing her curvaceous shoulders and bosom like old chiseled ivory, rounded arms and tiny slender hands. The entire dress was trimmed with Venetian lace. On her head, in her black hair, which was not augmented by any extension, was a small garland of pansies, and there was another on the black ribbon of her sash between pieces of white lace. Kitty had seen Anna every day and was in love with her, and had pictured her definitely in lilac, but now that she had seen her in black, she felt she had not understood the full extent of her charm. Her charm consisted precisely in the fact that she always stood out from what she wore, that what she wore could never be noticeable on her. The black dress with its sumptuous lace was indeed not noticeable on her. It was just a frame, and all that was visible was her simple, natural, elegant, and yet also light-hearted and vivacious self. Like, again, like what a crazy description for one of your protagonists, for the character you named the book after. it really like didn't turn me off of the character, but has made me like completely wary of it. And I felt like for a while I was just being told, you'll like Anna. Anna's great. Like, let me tell you, Anna's great. She's beautiful. She's kind. She's clever. She's like top of the class for a reason. But I didn't actually start liking her until this scene in chapter 29, which this isn't a spoiler vlog. I will stop reading once we get probably past reading aloud sections once we get past part 2, and I'll stop going into detail once we get further. I do want to let you know that I'm not going to spoil anything major, but this scene in chapter 29, and I highlighted pretty much the entire passage because I just like fell in love with it, which is so funny because like even just like a couple pages before that I wasn't highlighting that much, but I practically highlighted this entire passage. But Anna is on the train going home and she is reading, or trying to. Anna Arkadyevna read and understood, but it was unpleasant for her to read, that is, to follow the reflection of other people's lives. She had too great a longing to live herself, which, just stopping right there, feels so very close to my own self. Just like that phrase, it just very close to my very deep self. I have to say that. But it continues. If she read about the heroine of a novel caring for a sick man, she wanted to tiptoe with silent steps about the sick man's rooms. If she read about a member of parliament giving a speech, she wanted to give that speech. If she read about Lady Mary riding to the hounds, teasing her sister-in-law, and amazing everybody with her daring, she wanted to do all that herself. But there was nothing she could do. And running her small hands over the smooth paper knife, she returned to her reading with greater concentration. I think it was because of how close that concept slid against myself. But I love Anna. Like, that was enough to just like absolutely humanize her for me. Like, that scene is 100% this like turning point, and the whole scene, this whole chapter is actually really great. The reading up through the end of the chapter where she gets out and stands on the platform, I loved it so very much. But that scene, that passage just made her a character I love and relate to, and I just wanted to kind of walk you through my experience getting to know Anna. I will obviously keep you updated how I feel if my opinion on her changes. I know obviously what the book is about and what at least surface level decisions are made by Anna and at least one other character, so I'm curious to see if that changes my opinion. But I think now that she's going home, we're going to meet her husband and her son, hopefully. I'm excited to see her home life because we've spent the entirety of the book, I think it's in Moscow so far. Yeah, we've spent it all in Moscow except a small passage where Levin has returned home himself. And I'm actually not far from the end of part 1, and I don't think I'll be able to finish it. It's like another 18 pages, but I would love to be able to finish part 1 tonight. I think that'd be a really nice wrap to the night, but we will see, and I will definitely let you know tomorrow at some point about my thoughts at the end of part 1, because I'm sure I will finish it today or tomorrow, probably before I go to work. That is where I leave you for tonight. I have a little bit more to get done today, just like in general, and then hopefully I'm gonna read. We'll see. I do really want to read. I haven't listened to any audiobooks at all this week so far, and I do really want to listen to some Wives and Daughters, so maybe I'll listen to that to fall asleep rather than keep reading Anna, but we will see. We will see. Good night for now. I'll see you in a few seconds. I have finished part 1 of Anna Karenina. Officially in part 2. I'm so happy and pleased with myself. There are 8 parts of this book. I guess being done with part 1 does not indicate my general feelings of the book. I'm really enjoying it. I know people absolutely love it. So far, it's sitting at a 4, I guess, a 4-star, 3.5, 4. There just hasn't been a lot of things happening. Part 1 was really setting up all the characters and getting to know them. I do feel a little bit like I relate to some of the characters. It's not, I shouldn't say the characters so much as there are moments where I'm I feel like I see myself in those characters. I talked about with Anna, but there's also some moments with Levin where he's talking about how he wants to change his lifestyle and the way he lives because he's disappointed with himself and just thinks he could do better, basically, and needs to make this drastic change. And then he comes home and he's like, I don't know, could I make this change? And it becomes very difficult for him to even reimagine that change that he had just been imagining so clearly. So I do kind of see myself there. I've definitely had a lot of moments like that in my lifetime. But I'm done with part 1, and I feel like I've accomplished a little bit of something by finishing part 1. I feel like I've accomplished something there. I think because it's such a famous novel, and to finish any portion of it feels really good and feels really like an accomplishment. That's why I just feel this way. Like I said, there really hasn't been much happening. It's just been meeting the characters, seeing how the characters connect, and setting up the later dramas, I think. I'll have to get back to you if that's what the case is. I think it's a character-driven novel, though. And I think at this point we've met all the major characters because we've met Anna's husband. And what an unflattering initial picture we get of him. Just horrible and unflattering. But I did it. I finished part 1. I finished part 1. I'm off tomorrow. I don't think I'll finish part 2 tomorrow, but if I can finish part 2 by end of the day Saturday, I think I'd be feeling pretty great about myself. So we'll see. That's kind of my goal for a little bit. But I have to go to work now. I have to go to work, and I think it's going to be a long day. I just get that sense that it's going to be a long day. Maybe because, I don't know, I haven't done a close in a while, I feel like. Maybe that's why I feel that way. I just want to read. Just want to go home and read. And actually, I was editing a video, and I want to go edit the video. Okay. I am going to put you down and head into work. A couple little updates. One, you've probably noticed that this vlog is having some audio issues. That's something I didn't notice until I started editing it. I've edited it up until this point that you're hearing now, actually. This is being filmed and recorded during the bulk of the vlog, during the vlog itself. But I noticed while editing that some of the audio is really, really bad. So I'm going to be ordering a microphone that has some pretty good reviews, and that Apple themselves sell on their website and is in my budget. So I will be doing that. So hopefully moving forward, post this video, so post this weekend probably, you're gonna hopefully have just better audio in general, which is something I've struggled with, but now I can 100% or 90% make great. I hope it works. I hope it is good quality. it also means I am probably going to be filming all my videos exclusively on my iPhone, since that'll be the best audio recorder, best microphone. I'm not going to guarantee that at this juncture, but that's what it sounds like. If this works the way I want it to, I am just going to record everything on my phone. As it stands, I tend to just do vlogs on my phone since I'm taking that around with me anyways. And I have a video camera that is just like the family camera that I use for other types of videos. But I mean, if the audio is so great with this microphone, I'll definitely just be switching to that. Another update is that in editing the vlog up until this point, I saw exactly how long it's getting, and it's getting very long. I wasn't expecting it to be this long at this point, considering I'm only in the middle of part 2. So that's kind of crazy that I just have so much to say, and that this book is just directing me to have so much to say. I think it's great, but I wasn't expecting that. So at the end of part 2, I am actually going to end the vlog. It's gonna end at the end of part 2, so I think this will end up being a 4-part vlog series where each part is dedicated to 2 sections of the book. That's just how it looks like it's gonna be, unless one of the sections looks like I have so much to say that I need to break it up even further. But for now, just gonna be 2 parts, and they're gonna be mostly unbroken. I'm not going to, I mean, it'll be easier to show you when I get to part 2 and when you start watching part 2 to see my thoughts on sections 3 and 4 of the book. But it's gonna be a pretty unbroken vlog. I'll start up the part 2 of the vlog as soon as I finish part 1 of this vlog. Like, there might be like a couple hours between, but it won't be like days. So that's the other major announcement, the major thing I realized while editing. And also going back to audio real quick, I hope this audio turns out. I found an area that I think has decent acoustics and I think has hopefully good audio quality, but I'll find out when I'm editing this section. But what I really wanted to go over and talk about right now are just quotes that I've pulled out of the book so far. One of my favorite things about annotating and about using the sticky tabs is that I can actually point out direct quotes that I really like. I'm not someone with a good memory for quotes, and I'm also too lazy to keep track of most quotes when I'm reading, like to write them down somewhere. But annotating has been the perfect opportunity to keep track of some of those quotes. And I don't have a crazy amount, but I just wanted to share them all up until this point. I just finished chapter 14 in section 2, and I just wanted to go over all the quotes I've pulled out so far, because there are so many lovely and wonderful and just like interesting and also sad quotes that this book has really made me think about. So the first one is in chapter 2 of part 1, and it is Oblonsky thinking. And I'll read you the whole section because I think you need context. There was no answer except the general answer which life gives to all the most complicated and unanswerable questions. This answer was, one must live by satisfying immediate needs, that is, by seeking oblivion. Seeking oblivion in dreams was no longer possible, at least until nighttime. It was no longer possible to go back to the music which the little decanter woman had been singing. Consequently, he had to seek oblivion in the dream of life. And the part of that quote that I pulled out was, he had to seek oblivion in the dream of life. I'm immediately drawn to anything talking about dreams. I think that dreams and dreamscapes, especially in literature, are really interesting and a really cool place to play around, because you as the author get to control what the characters are dreaming and what's haunting them and what's pleasing them and all this stuff. And that's just so powerful. I think it's really interesting, and I really love this comparison of dreams and life. He had to seek oblivion in the dream of life. Like, life is a dream. You can make life a dream. Like, it's not like fulfill your dreams, but you can make life dreamlike. And this is a way to seek oblivion, just as you would if you were like sleeping and dreaming. And I just love that imagery and that concept. and how dark that could be. The dream of life, seeking oblivion in the dream of life, that could be drugs, that could be something altering your consciousness, or it could just be willful ignorance, willful denial. It could be you turning away from all these things that are harsh, or it could be you throwing yourself into the mundanity and the little things and the small tasks and making your day about life directly and not necessarily the consequences. And I just really, really, really liked that quote. The next quote is just a couple pages later in chapter 3, still in section 1. And this, I thought it was funny. And basically, I'll have to, I have to read you the whole section again, just to give you context. But the whole section reads, after finishing the newspaper, a second cup of coffee, and a roll and butter, he got up, shook the crumbs from his waistcoat, and expanding his broad chest, smiled happily, not because he was harboring anything particularly pleasant in his soul. The happy smile was brought on by good digestion. And the part that I just highlighted and pulled out was the happy smile was brought on by good digestion. I think that's hilarious on so many levels. It's unexpected, but it's so realistic. And also as someone who is lactose intolerant, I mean, when I have good digestion, that does make me smile. I'm not gonna lie. All right, so then we have in chapter 9 of part 1, this is Levin looking for Kitty at the ice skating rink. And he's really worked himself up, and he's terrified and nervous and has no idea if this is going to work out. He's very afraid, and he's very vulnerable. And he's totally in love with her. And this is the quote. He could tell she was there from the joy and fear gripping his heart. I love that. There's something very real and strong about being in love and being afraid. I think they go hand in hand. I think fear is a very natural part of, I don't mean fear of your partner. I mean fear of just if things went wrong, or if things don't work out, or being afraid of how powerfully you feel. I don't mean fear in the way that you're scared, but there's a fear to being so completely and utterly in love. And this quote just absolutely encapsulates, very clearly it encapsulates that, but I just loved how it's clear how much Levin loves Kitty, because he's so afraid at the power of these emotions, and he's so afraid of what denial would look like. So that's why I pulled that quote out. I thought it was a beautiful and sort of harsh way to look at love, but a very honest and realistic way. So then the next quote we have is in chapter 11 of part 1. And Stepan Arkadyevich he's just kind of waxing on to Levin about living and life lessons and stuff. And a lot of them are just very much clearly one person's point of view on life and what is a fulfilling life and all that. But this quote I thought was very universal. And the quote is, all the wonder and beauty of life is made up of light and shade. And I think that's something that especially book readers could agree with. I think that is a very common theme in a lot of books. And I don't think that this quote is saying anything particularly groundbreaking. I just really liked the way it was phrasing it. And I also thought it was really nice that in the end of Oblonsky's kind of paragraphs of just opinion, basically, this is a very true statement. And I think this book is full of a lot of characters just sharing opinions, and you kind of have to search sometimes for the true statements, but that doesn't mean there aren't true universal statements there. So then we have in chapter 19, this is Kitty, I think. No, I'm so sorry. This is Dolly, Stepan Arkadyevich's wife. So this is her reflecting and talking to Anna after just Anna has arrived to kind of see if she can mend what is broken between her brother and her sister-in-law after her brother cheated. And there's so many sad moments and quotes from the scene and from Dolly experiencing and trying to figure out what to do and just hurting so much after this betrayal. But this line, I think, kind of goes hands in hand with the quote from Levin earlier that I just shared, and also sums up the most painful emotion I think Dolly's got. And that is, it will be agony living with him now, precisely because I loved him as I did, because I love my past love for him. It's absolutely heartbreaking. I mean, I feel horrible for Dolly in this entire situation, and don't even get me started on the fact that he's cheating again in part 2. But that line is just absolutely destructive on my emotions. I love my past love for him. It is so sad and just shows you how hard it is to let go of someone that you care so much about, because it's more than just caring about them. It's enjoying and appreciating the act of caring about them, and being in love with all the little things and all the small moments, the kind of tendons and fabric that make up a relationship. So then we have a quote from chapter 26. This, I kind of talked about how Levin kind of has a life moment where he's like, I'm gonna change the way I live, and has all these grand plans. And this is during some of those scenes, and the narrator just says, he felt himself again and did not want to be different. I really liked that. I just really like the sentiment that you can feel yourself and not want to be different, want to maintain yourself and your personhood, but still want to grow and change and evolve. So I just really liked that as a sentiment in general. And also I think it's a great moment for Levin, who's just gone through some emotional turmoil. Our next quote is from chapter 29. And I talked about this whole passage. This is the passage that made me really like and appreciate Anna. Although in my next update, I'm probably going to talk about my current opinions on here. I'm just not sure if they're going to change again. So I don't want to be like, oh, well, this is my thought, because it's still forming. But this is her reading in the train, and it's just this line, she had too great a longing to live herself. It is so close to my own heart and my own soul. Like that line just on its own, that very line is so powerfully near me. It's a little frightening to look at that and see that written on the page by somebody who lived a long time before I was even born. But I did kind of talk about this whole scene earlier, so I'm not going to go over it again. Now in chapter 32, this oh my god, I pulled this quote out just because of how savage Anna was being. Her son, just like her husband, also produced in Anna a feeling akin to disappointment. She had imagined him to be better than he was in reality. She had to descend to reality in order to enjoy him as he was. Like, damn, Anna. Tell me that you hate your family without telling me that you hate your family. But I kind of get this. You know, you build up a person or an experience in your head so much, and then when you experience it or you meet them, you have to sort of scale yourself back because you're disappointed, even if it was unintentional, even if they're great, even if it was a great experience. You've just built it up. You've made life a dream. You know, it's just so disappointing not to have that if you really thought you were going to. Yeah, that was just like a really savage line. That's why I pulled that out. Okay, and then we're in part 2. I'm obviously not done with part 2 yet, but I do have some quotes pulled out. These next 2 are both from chapter 7, and they're actually only a couple paragraphs apart. They're part of the same conversation between Betsy and Anna. And Betsy says, I think that to know what love is, one must make mistakes and learn from them. And then Anna responds several paragraphs later, if there are as many heads as there are minds, then there must be that many kinds of love as there are hearts. And I just thought these were both really beautiful reflections on love in general. I think you'll notice a theme. I've really been paying attention to love and relationships and how different characters see that and how it compares to my own worldview of love and relationships. And especially in this book where the central relationship is between Anna and Vronsky, which is an adulterous relationship, which definitely means different things then than it does now, but it's still, kind of taboo. And I just thought these were two really beautiful reflections on love. That's why I pulled them out. And finally, the last quote that I have pulled out so far is from chapter 9. When we start digging around in our souls, we often unearth something that might have lain undetected. And this is from Alexei Alexandrovich, which is Anna's husband. And I have mixed feelings about him. I have really mixed feelings about him, but I thought this was just a kind of frightening line because it's true. But it's frightening to accept and admit and acknowledge that, I think. So that's just why I pulled it out. I also think it's just a beautiful, beautiful expression, as dark and terrifying as it is. So yeah, those are the quotes I have pulled out from Anna Karenina so far. I'm enjoying the book. I don't know if it's going to be a favorite. I know so many people have this as their favorite book. I don't know if it will be that for me. I'm having a hard time with characters, but like I said, I'm still formulating my thoughts on these things exactly, so I will have to extrapolate on that a little bit. Not right now. It's still going well. I am now in chapter 30 of part 2. I am trying very bad to finish part 2 today. Whether I do or I don't, I think I'm going to give my final thoughts tomorrow and wrap it up, and honestly, maybe you'll see it's posting as soon as tomorrow. But before I finish part 2, I wanted to catch you up on all of the thoughts I have been having, all of my feelings, everything that sort of the big middle chunk of part 2 has kind of made me feel and think. And first of all, characters. I think at this juncture, the only character I really feel compassion for is Kitty. She's the only character I'm 100% rooting for. She's a young girl who has received some horrible, terrible heartbreak and is feeling sick, is actually sick, is having real reaction to it. And I feel so bad for her because she's very young, especially compared to a lot of the other characters, except Vronsky, I think, is around the same age as her, if I'm not mistaken. So I feel horrible for her. All the other characters at this point, or the other major characters, so I'm going to say Levin, Vronsky, and Anna, they're, depending on the side characters, they do feel a lot of sympathy and compassion for them, like Dolly, I feel horrible for. But the other major characters, Levin, Vronsky, and Anna, I just do not love. I appreciate them as characters. I think they're really well-written characters. I just personally am having a really hard time sympathizing with all of them. Anna and Vronsky, because they're having this affair, and also Vronsky is the way he thinks about things, I just do not jive with. Anna I'm a little more sympathetic towards. I do like her as a character. I understand that she is completely unhappy in her relationship with her husband. I get that, and I feel horrible for her that she feels that way. That being said, outside of her talking about all the things she hates about him, we don't actually see him really treating her too terribly. He's very cold and not necessarily nice, but he's also not mean. He's not hurting her. He's not beating her up. Yes, he leaves a lot to be desired, and I mean, to a degree, there's some emotional abuse in that he's not seeing to her needs and seems not to have been seeing to her needs on that level, but it also, she's not trying. She isn't seeing to his needs. She just kind of hates him point blank, and I totally get it. She's very unhappy. I 100% get it. I just wish we could see scenes of him maybe deserving it, or not even deserving it, but just see action rather than, and even, I want to see an action, a scene where he's doing something and see her respond to the scene rather than her just being I hate the way he coughs. Because those kinds of hatred build up slowly, and they're the Lego bricks on top of the platform you have built. of hate. You know, you don't start with hating someone's coughs. You start with hating how they treat you or what they do, and we just don't get to see that, and we don't even get Anna really reflecting on specific moments. She's just very directly in the moment hating her husband, which fair, you can hate your husband, and I think her affair with Vronsky is a very natural reaction to that. Because I don't have these scenes to build off of, I have a little bit of a hard time feeling so much sympathy for her. I think if I saw more of these scenes, and maybe that's horrible of me to say, but it's literature, you know, we're not prying into a real person's life, we're prying into a character's life, and it's a little different with literature. And I think if I had seen scenes rather than just have the internal hatred over small ticks, I would feel more sympathetic for her and not feel so weird about kind of being placed in a location as a reader to root for someone having an affair and cheating on her husband. As for Levin, I find him so frustrating to read about. He is like obsessed with Kitty and then takes it really badly and then finds out she's sick, and his reaction is like, oh well, I mean, I don't feel bad. And it's like, I get it to a degree. If someone who you loved and who hurt you is facing repercussions, you kind of feel a little gleeful in that. But he just is so just happy, and his reaction to it just makes it so hard for me to be like, oh, I like you, you're the good guy in this scenario. Like, she's a child and you were gone for a year and she fell in love with someone else. You can be happy that she's not with that guy, like I think that's fine, but the fact that she is sick and dying, I think that's not okay. I think that crossed a line and it really bothered me. Also, just the way he treats his employees and like servants, I think he thinks very good of himself, but then he is like ready to like yell at them for not doing it perfectly. And well, I get that the people you manage, you want to do a good job. He doesn't take any responsibility, you know, and good management takes responsibility when the people they manage can't do what they need them to do. And he just is like, I'm so enlightened. And then he still treats people like crap. So I just have a hard time liking Levin. Like, high key, this book is revolutionizing me. You know, no, just a little bit. So that's just why I'm having a struggle with Levin, why I don't really like him, I guess. My other big problem is how tedious this book can get sometimes. There are moments when I love the detail that Tolstoy pours into the book, when he's talking about the balls and the parties and the celebrations and what people are wearing. I think that's great. And it doesn't linger too long on these moments. I think it stays exactly as long as it needs to in these scenes, gives as many details as it needs to, and then moves on. But then there are scenes that are so tedious. I don't want to call them boring because that's not necessarily the case, but they're very emotionally dry. They're very technical and analytical and not interesting for me to read about. There are a lot of scenes with Levin on his farm and Levin and Stepan out hunting, which I think both those sequences you can kind of say and argue do a lot and have a lot of symbolism. But I swear the horse racing scene with Vronsky goes on way too long, and there is a lot of symbolism in there. I did a lot of annotating for some of those pages. For example, you know, I did a lot of annotating, but then there's also pages where there's nothing, because there's so much in between the symbolism that is just very, very intensely detailed horse racing or horses. And like I've said this in other videos, I used to be a horse girl. I love horses. It's so boring in this book. Tolstoy made horses boring in this book. So there's just those kinds of scenes make it very tedious and hard for me to get through the text and make me kind of want to take a break. I'm not going to, but it makes me want to. very rough reading in those areas. That being said, the horse racing scene, there is so much I could talk about. There's so much about the way Vronsky thinks about his horse and the way he treats his horse that says so much about his character, and I feel like are moments I'm going to want to return to as the novel progresses. The horse race is also very much a climax of a lot of things and a release of a lot of things, and I think that it accomplishes this very, very well. So before I say more, I'm just gonna let you know the rest of this update is gonna have spoilers. I don't personally consider them to be spoilers or major spoilers for a book if it's within the first quarter of a book. I think that is fair game to talk about. However, I know not everyone feels this way, so if you want no spoilers at all for Anna Karenina, stop watching until I put up something that says like spoilers end here. Or basically at the end of this update. Because after this update is going to be my wrap up of my thoughts so far of the first 2 parts, and I'm not going to spoil anything in that. I also, moving forward after this vlog, I'm not going to be spoilering big events or reveals. I'll be talking about stuff, but as I go deeper into the book, I'm going to be talking less directly about things. So like, if you want to watch all these videos, don't worry about that. I'm not going to be spoiling major events. I just consider the first quarter of a book not to be major events, basically. So Vronsky's horse dies, and I want to just bring attention to the scene because I'm not 100% sure what to do with it right now, except that I know it's a horrifying and horrible and sad scene, and I did actually get really sad, but I don't know what to do with it yet. So I'm just going to share it with you, let it sit with you, and it'll be something that I'll probably recall in later videos, or maybe I won't. Maybe I'm just reading too much into it. So this is in chapter 25. She flew over it like a bird, but at the same instant Vronsky felt to his horror that he had not kept pace with his horse, and that without understanding how, he had done something terrible and unforgivable by dropping back into the saddle. All at once his position changed, and he realized that something awful had happened. Before he could work out what it was that had happened, the white legs of the chestnut stallion had come up very close to him, and Makotin sped past at a swift gallop. Vronsky was touching the ground with one leg, and his horse now began to collapse onto that leg. He barely had time to free his leg before she fell on one side with heavy gasps, and after making vain efforts with her slender, perspiring neck to stand up, she lay there at his feet, trembling on the ground like a wounded bird. Vronsky's clumsy movement had broken her back, but he only realized that much later. Still not understanding what had happened, Vronsky tugged at the horse's reins. She again started quivering all over like a fish, making the saddle flaps creak, managed to free her front legs, but since she was unable to lift her back, she immediately keeled over and fell again onto her side. Pale, with his face contorted with passion and his lower jaw trembling, Vronsky kicked her in the stomach with his heel and started pulling on the reins again, but she did not budge, and with her nose buried in the ground, she just gazed at her master with her expressive eyes. "Ah," groaned Vronsky, clutching at his head. "Ah, what have I done?" he cried. "And the race is lost, and it's my own shameful, unpardonable fault. And this poor beloved doomed horse. What have I done?" To his great dismay, he felt completely safe and sound. For the first time in his life, he was experiencing the bitterest of misfortunes, and it was a misfortune which was irreparable and which he himself had caused. So we're just going to sit with that, and I will probably recall that because I just have a feeling this is a big moment. It's also horrifying, like the horse dies. Not then and there, its back is broken, which is like worse, so it's like in agony, and then it's killed, because that's what you do with race horses. I mean, that's what you do probably with any horse that breaks its back. You can't really heal that, I don't think. But the other thing I want to talk about, that's like spoiler territory, are the 2 major surprises I had. So one of these I knew was going to happen because I had seen it mentioned in the character list at the beginning. I just thought it was going to come much later in the book, and that is that Anna is pregnant with Vronsky's child. Chapter 22, she tells him, "I'm pregnant." I gasped. I couldn't I couldn't read forward. I was so surprised and shocked. Wow, like this relationship they have moves so quickly. Although I guess a lot of time has passed. It just feels very quickly on the page. And also like what a big moment. And then the other one is in chapter 29, right after the horse race. So it's very neat. We get chapters from Vronsky's point of view, and then we kind of back up a couple hours, and then we turn to Anna and her husband's point of views. And Anna tells her husband that she's having an affair with Vronsky, and I was just I was so shocked. She tells him. I thought like the novel was her hiding it from him. I guess not. But the scene, like, I have to read it to you because it was like damn, Anna. Again, she's so savage. No, you were not mistaken, she said slowly, glancing in desperation at his cold face. You were not mistaken. I was and cannot help being in despair. I hear you, but I am thinking about him. I love him. I am his mistress. I can't stand you. I am afraid of you. I hate you. Do what you like with me. Like, damn, Anna. Oh my God. You've just told your husband. Whoa. Wasn't expecting that to happen at all. So I have no idea where else the story goes after this. I thought that was like not going to come for many chapters down the line. So very surprised in a pleasant way by both of those things because they're really moving the story forward. And also I can't believe I'm only a quarter of the way through the book, or just about a quarter of the way through the book, and all this has happened already. What's left? I mean, I know there must be something. There's a lot of pages left. It's not all horse races. Oh God, I hope not. That horse race scene, like the tedious parts, were the first parts of the book I seriously considered skipping over. But I'm gonna go read. I'm going to go try to finish part 2. And then it'll probably be time-ish for D&D tonight, but we'll see. It's too hot to go reading outside, but I do want to do that. It's just not a good day for it. 6 chapters left. 5 chapters left in part 2. And I already started chapter 30 and we're back with Kitty and her family, which is good because I said I really like her. She's the most enjoyable of all the characters so far. Let's turn those off so that I can actually update and you can hear me, because there's enough audio issues that I don't need the background, just like noise. I did it. I finished part 2 of Anna Karenina. I finished. I'm officially in part 3. Can you see that? This is part 3. Let's see. I think it's showing up. I'm so excited. It's happening. So this is where this vlog is going to leave off. I am going to edit it tonight, and I'm going to post it tomorrow. Tomorrow's Sunday, so you'll actually be able to watch this pretty contemporaneous to when I've actually done the readings for parts 1 and 2. I am not going to start part 3 tonight. I'm tired, and while part 2 did end on a high note, there were so many tedious parts to get through in part 2. Like, part 1 didn't really feel like it suffered from that, but part 2 really did. And I'm a bit wary of more tediousness, and I don't want to get into it. But my final thoughts on part 2. I really like the Kitty storyline. I think I've said before, Kitty is my favorite character so far. I really liked her and her friendship with Veronica, and there's definitely some queer subtext you could read there. I tabbed it all because I was like, yeah, no, this is pretty queer. Even just like their final lines to each other. Kitty asks her to visit Russia, and Veronica says, I'll come when you get married. Kitty says, I'm never going to get married. Well, I'll never come then. In that case, I will get married just so you will. Like, you will visit. And that's like, that's pretty gay. Okay, that was like pretty gay, without being directly gay. No, I will not elaborate on that. I would if you asked. How do I feel having read 25% of this massive book? I've read big books before. I have read, probably the biggest book is The Wise Man's Fear. My biggest book this year was probably A Court of Silver Flames. Big books don't scare me. They just, I know they take time because I am a slow reader. So there are these gnats. They keep swarming my freaking light. I don't know where they're coming from, and I just killed like 5 of them, and the light is literally right above where I put my head, so it's incredibly disturbing that they're there. And I just saw another one. But they're gnats. I'm not going to deal with it right now. Oh, it's right there. I'll deal with it at the end. I know big novels take me a long time to read, and I know that I am a slow reader, and that's why I put them off a lot of times. I'm glad I'm not putting this off anymore, but at the same time, oof. It's been a week and I've only read a quarter of this book. Like that's, you know, slow feeling even for me. I'm also only 240 pages into it. That being said, I did time myself. It takes me about half an hour to read 10 pages of this book, which is a lot, especially because my goal for reading is 25 pages a day. This book is just like destroying that goal, but it's okay. I think overall I am enjoying it. I think I could say that pretty safely. It is a much different experience than I was expecting because the story is moving so quickly. The fact that Anna and Vronsky's relationship is at the point where it's at surprises me quite a bit. I don't really know what's going to happen, especially with the Anna storyline. Levin, I have like a guess of where it's going to go. I mean, it's a pretty clear direction for him. It's all the other characters, or at least all the characters connected with Anna's story, that I just don't know about. And I'm really curious. I don't know if I mentioned it, and I don't think I realized it right away, but there is a pretty big jump in time from part 1 to part 2. Like several months, I think. And I imagine that's going to be between each part, maybe. If that's the case, I could kind of see how we would get a large scope of these characters' lives, and I'm looking forward to that. I was thinking, even though it is such a big novel, it was going to take place over such a short span, but I'm pretty sure, you know, looking at it and looking at the jump from parts 1 to parts 2, that it probably will be a much larger scope of their life, and I'm excited for that. I also, I keep thinking how one time I saw someone comparing Hanya Yanagihara, that's her name, right? The author of A Little Life, comparing that book and her writing to Tolstoy and to War and Peace, I think. And I've seen people online will lump Anna Karenina and A Little Life together because they're both grand tragedies and difficult books, but a lot of people find them both to be like comfort reads. And I've been thinking about that a lot while reading, especially in part 2. I was thinking about it a lot. Not because there's any direct correlation, but just because of the scope and the characters and even the way the narrator works, the omniscient narrator. I think that's interesting, and it's something I'm keeping my eye on. As for like the Incredibles connection that I found earlier, I haven't seen any other connections, or not direct ones. Obviously there's like subtext in the Incredibles, like where she thinks he's cheating on her, but I don't consider that a connection in this because it's different situation. But I also keep picturing Oblonsky as Mr. Incredible, but that's my own issue. Here we are at the end of part 2. Thank you for coming on this journey with me. Like I said, part 3 is going to pick up probably tomorrow. I will film the introduction and just begin right into it. So probably about the same time this is uploading to YouTube will be when I start my second Anna vlog. I'm excited. I'm excited to continue. I'm excited for people to see my reactions and thoughts on the book so far. If you've read this, let me know down in the comments. Like, please don't spoil anything, but I would love to talk about the book and my thoughts up to this point with you down in the comments. And if you haven't read this book, I don't know if this is me trying to convince you to read it with these vlogs, because I'm not even sure how much I like it, but maybe I'm convincing you a little bit. We'll see. But I will see you guys very soon. Thank you once again for coming with me on this journey. I also wanted to just say thank you, all of you who have subscribed. We're at, I say we, it's the royal we. I'm at 85 subscribers. It's great. Like, hello, 85 of you are subscribed to me. That feels so flattering on like every single level. I thank you, like 100% thank you. I'm bursting at the edges, just to know there's people out there listening to me talk. And yeah, every time there's a subscriber, every time there's a comment, I always smile. I always get that little boost of serotonin. I just feel very seen. So thank you very much. This is where I leave you. If you're somewhere warm, I hope you're staying comfortable, and if you're somewhere cold, I hope you're staying warm, and most of all, I hope you're reading a great book. I will see you guys next time. Bye.